Call the regular council meeting of Monday, December the 8th to order. There is one late item that wasn't on the original agenda, and that's the presentation from Sean Stevenson, President and CEO for the Port of Prince Rupert. It was no one just missed. So that late item has now been added, and I would look for a motion to approve the agenda as amended. Councilors Cunningham and Niche, all in favor? Any opposed? It is carried. I'll note that we're being joined this evening remotely by Councillor Skelton Morvan. And I would call Mr. Stevenson forward. Come on forward. I don't think you're any stranger to the room. You can turn on the microphone there and begin your 140 slide deck presentation.
That's right. Settle in.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's a pleasure to be here tonight. Hope this is the start of regular check-ins with council as we provide some updates and insights into how things are doing with the port operations as well as expansion. I think it's important that we're aligned and understand all of the good things happening with the port, but also some of the challenges we're experiencing. So tonight I'm going to give a quick snapshot on how things are going this year. Across all the lines of business that comprise the port, obviously with our gateway partners, as well as a little snippet and insight into the progress on construction and expansion going on. And it was a pleasure earlier this year to have a number of the councillors out on Ridley Island to see firsthand the scale of what's happening. So happy to take questions after, but thank you very much for having me.
Excellent.
First, just to give you an insight in how things are going across the 6 terminals that comprise the Port of Prince Rupert. And it's actually with great pride that I talk about the 6 terminals that comprise the Port of Prince Rupert. It wasn't that long ago when we had 2 or 3 and then 4. And it speaks to the continued growth, expansion, and diversification of the port. Oops. There we go. First and foremost, we finished the cruise ship season a number of months back, up modestly from last year, but just shy of 70,000 passengers into Prince Rupert. And it's great to see this sector come back, given its economic impacts in the community, both in the tourism operators that are part of the economy in Prince Rupert, but also within our retail. Looking ahead to next year, we're ecstatic that we should be seeing in excess of 150,000 cruise ship passengers next year. More regular visits as opposed to more at one time. And I think that serves to be a real good foundation for businesses looking to expand and grow into the cruise tourism sector. Pinnacle Pellet, or Westview Wood Terminal, now operated by Drax, owned and operated. 4% year-over-year growth. Kind of steady in its operation. The Fairview Container Terminal is having a great year. We're seeing year-to-date growth of 18%. This is after 4 years of, I'd say, declines, starting in the pandemic and carrying on. This is important for a couple of reasons. One, we've seen some significant capital investments in the terminal expansion, but also it's very labor intensive. So when we were off 40% from our peak volumes handled in 2019, it was a significant impact to the employment within the port. If I look back to when we used to have a pulp mill here, if we saw one of those lines go down, there would have been public outcry. This quietly happened and had a significant impact to the community, and we're great to see those volumes coming back now. Prince Rupert Grain is having a good year. Obviously, it depends on the crop year and how things are going, but 10% up year over year. Trigon Pacific next door is year over year is up 20%, and it's great to see the volumes of metallurgical coal have a strong year. And then the Ridley Island Propane Export Terminal continues to see great success with nearly double-digit growth year over year. Over 2 million tons handled to date. Thinking back that this facility originally was planned to handle somewhere around 1.3 million tons, it's great to see the continued growth and optimization of that facility. Overall, this kind of tells the story of what we've been seeing over the past 4 years. Coming off our record year in 2020, record container volumes in 2019, we've seen some soft years, mostly attributed to the decline in container volumes. And it's great to see 2025 will come in and see us return back to the volumes we saw in 2018 and set us up to continue seeing growth of traffic, growth of employment, and growth of port activity over the upcoming years, in particular as we see some of these new facilities come on. Talking about expansion, it's really good to put this in context, what's happening right now and the period we've been through over the past 2 decades. If you look at the modern Port of Prince Rupert, recognizing the port's been around for in excess of 100 years, we really had 3 main facilities in the first 30 years of its existence. You had Fairview. Fairview was actually expanded in the late 70s, primarily focused on break bulk forest products, mineral concentrates, really serving a hinterland in the region. And we saw Prince Rupert Grain and Ridley Terminals built on Ridley Island in the early 80s. And for the most part, the following period was in pursuit of additional projects without a lot of success. So fast forward to the last 20 plus years, the Northland Cruise Ship Terminal built in 2004. But if you look at the facilities, the projects advanced. Not all facilities, some are infrastructure projects. But you see an amazing story that's played out over the last number of decades and really accelerating over the last 10 years, leading to the period of expansion we're in right now. It's important to point out the projects that we see advancing on Ridley Island today have, in some cases, been a decade in development. Both in the complexity of seeing those projects move to a final investment decision, but also the complexity of our regulatory processes in Canada. Projects that were in environmental assessment for far too long. In the case of the Ridley Energy Export Facility, that project was in the environmental assessment for over 5 years. It's amazing that the proponents hung around and put that capital at risk. But now it's great to see that project moving forward. But it really tells the story of billions of dollars of expansion within the port. So this is essentially the development plan we're stewarding right now. And we're proud of this because, I'll call it boring but transformational pieces of infrastructure like the Fairview Connector Corridor that was built during the pandemic fundamentally changed how we look at the port and the whole port ecosystem. So very much developing away from the community to avoid and mitigate those future conflicts we see playing out on the North Shore in Vancouver, in every port on the West Coast, frankly. I think you've got to really scratch your head and think back to when the last time you saw a container truck move through downtown. But it wasn't that long ago that was the norm. And now all of that is happening away from the community in an integrated development area that we're seeing, in excess of $3 billion in capital investment go on right now. All this represents an integrated ecosystem where we look at the intermodal business, that's the blue, the dry bulk business, the orange, and then the move into liquid bulk being development clusters that will ultimately create the opportunity for continued growth and expansion for decades to come in Prince Rupert. And all of that's supported with dedicated transportation systems, rail corridors, and so forth. So like I said, it's in excess of $3 billion of construction going on right now across 4 or 5 different projects. That includes the Ridley Energy Export Facility, the joint venture between Vopak and AltaGas. This will be the first of likely 2, 3, 4 phases of expansion in this facility, as it serves to enable Canadian energy exports, generally in the area of energy transition. Today, we represent just over 40% of Western Canada's propane production moving through the Port of Prince Rupert, 25% of Japan's imports, nearly 15% of Korea's imports. And the story is just starting. Big advancements over the next, or in construction over the last number of weeks. It changes so fast out there now as you're seeing more of the verticals. When we were out looking at the berth construction, some of the foundational work, the movement of these large project cargo storage vessels is quite something. This is across our new material offloading facility that was built on Porpoise Harbor. This will support construction and expansion of a number of projects on Ridley Island, but also be there to support staging and project cargo moves for projects in the region as well down the road. But you see the size and scale of that moving through Raymont's current operations in their container transload facility. And just the amazing logistics planning to move these in sight. And of course, there'll be 3 of these, as well as some additional storage bullets when this is fully complete. The CAN export facility, this is a export transload facility, taking goods produced in Western Canada, agricultural products, forest products, petrochemicals, and bring them in by unit train into the Port of Prince Rupert, and taking advantage of all of the empty containers moving westbound through Prince Rupert. This facility will have 400,000 TEUs of capacity when it opens. To put that in perspective, that is almost the same scale as what Fairview was when it opened up as a container terminal. So this is essentially a container terminal without a marine berth. That's going to create much more resiliency and capacity within the port to support the continued growth of the container business in Prince Rupert, but also at a critical time as Canada is looking to diversify the markets with which it trades. I like to say that we started this and got this built after March 3rd of this year, but the reality is it's been a decade in development, but incredibly timely in creating much needed capacity. This is the largest facility of its kind, likely in North America. If you took, say, 8, 9, 10 facilities in Vancouver and combine them, it would be the same scale as this. This is going to contribute to much more resiliency in our container business and allow us to move beyond the 1.2 million TEUs we saw in 2019. The South Can Import Logistics Project. It's a partnership between Metlakatla and ourselves, and then Western Intermodex. This Linex facility will create much needed import transload capacities and give more flexibility for importers using the Prince Rupert Gateway. This facility too, as well as CAN Export, will both be complete in 2007. And then Trigon Pacific Terminals continues to make great progress in its second berth. Has done some preliminary work on their expansion area we call Area A, and it sets that terminal up to diversify and expand in what it can handle. And we've worked with Trigon on a number of opportunities. Most recently, it was disappointing to hear the Nutrien announcement about their plans for a potash terminal, but we think there's tremendous opportunity for Trigon to continue to grow and expand. And then supporting all of this is CN's work to deal with what was a single point of failure with the Zanardi Bridge, but also expand the capacity to ensure that trains can move into the port ecosystem without interruption and delay. This project will essentially be a double rail bridge in addition to the single bridge that's there now. Once complete, they'll proceed with refurbishing the existing bridge. So it represents a debottlenecking and an enhanced resilience to trains moving in and out of the Port of Prince Rupert. So what does this mean? If we look back to 2000, as I pointed out in the expansion path we've been on, we were heavily focused on a couple lines of business: the grain terminal, the coal terminal, and some break bulk at Fairview. In 2010, with the conversion to containers, much more diversification in what we were handling. And then fast forward to 2020, you see a much more diversified port complex and 32 million tons of cargo through the port. Fast forward to 2030, we'll have capacity of somewhere around 60 million tons, expanded from the current 45 million tons of capacity. And we expect that we'll be, well over 35 million tons of cargo by that time. What that means is a more diversified port, a more resilient local economy, and a lot more jobs. Support all this, we're doing a lot of things. We recognize that the last time we hit peak container volumes in 2019, we saw the first area shortage was in the trucking area. So we're piloting today. We've piloted autonomous trucking and also looking at multi-trailer trucking. With the connector road, because it doesn't cross a public road, we can do some things that you wouldn't be able to on public roads where you've got limitations with regulations and weights and so forth. All with the idea of increasing the capacity in trucking. Because we're going to go from today is probably somewhere around 150 to 200 truck moves a day in and out of the terminal from our transload facilities to over 1,200 moves a day with CanExport coming on. So we know we're going to have to increase capacity. We've tested out autonomous with a view that we might run into shortages in the future, recognizing that there's probably another 1,000 longshore jobs that are going to be created in Prince Rupert. And that's naturally where people tend to end up, given the higher rates of pay and so forth. So it's all about ensuring that we've got the resiliency to continue to support this growth. And we have a unique opportunity to test some things out you can't do elsewhere. Also, we're doing a lot on emission reduction. We're testing out electric trucks. We're testing out hydrogen trucks, hydrogen augmented fuel. All of it with a view of reducing emissions. In the meantime, we've got shore power at Fairview. We're also seeing significant transition into renewable diesel. This year, about 40% of the diesel consumed within the port complex will be renewable. We've had 13 partners in this. It has a significant impact on emission reduction, and we've been the most successful in North America of any port introducing renewable diesel. Whether that is a sustained opportunity, I think we're going to start competing with sustainable aviation fuel. But in the meantime, this represents an opportunity to bridge technologies of alternate fuels like hydrogen and electric that we're testing out right now. And then, of course, we're always eager to see shore power introduced. But as we're seeing new fuels considered for bunkering, is shore power a 10-year or 20-year solution? Probably, but after that, we suspect we'll probably be moving on to things like methanol and ammonia as bunkers. Then to support all this, we're already through 2 phases of developing a digital twin for the port. We'll be the first port in Canada to have full awareness of all the moves of ships, trucks, trains, and the operations of terminals within the port. What that allows us to do is optimize the operation. The cheapest infrastructure we have and capacity we have is the infrastructure we have right now. So how can we optimize that? In addition, it'll allow us to run scenarios in the future. Infinite number of scenarios of looking at growth, expansion, and the effects of different types of business, different frequencies of trains, different train lengths, different ship sizes, and everything else to optimize the port operations. So this will be a big part of the port's future over decades to come. It also represents an opportunity to optimize things from an environmental impact standpoint, maximize safety in its operation, and really give us a real-time awareness of how everything's moving within the port complex. So all of this, where we are today in construction that's happening right now, we often talk about the $60 billion in annual trade that's anchored through the port. We suspect it will be around that this year again. But the outlook for the port is much more ambitious than that. We suspect the value trade that could be anchored through the Port of Prince Rupert will be somewhere between 100 and 200 billion, looking ahead to the growth and expansion. We expect there's certainly over 1,000 new jobs on the waterfront, and then you look at the jobs broadly in the ecosystem. You can expect that it certainly be increased by 50% over the upcoming decade. So it's a significant impact. And then, of course, the city of Prince Rupert, looking ahead, it means a significant impact to the tax revenues to the city of Prince Rupert. If you look back to 2012 to 2023, already a significant impact to the taxation driven to the city of Prince Rupert from port tenants, from the Prince Rupert Port Authority. If you look ahead on what this expansion represents to the city of Prince Rupert, it represents a significant increase over the upcoming years. These are annual revenues based upon our estimates of what the current construction is going to contribute. If you look at the tax burden and how that's shifted, if you look back in 2013, major industry, which is largely comprised of the port, was about 13%. Fast forward to 2024, it was just shy of 40%. And then by 2028, we expect it's going to be approaching 60%. And really looking to anchor the municipal tax base for the city of Prince Rupert at a critical time when you're making big investments in infrastructure renewal. And then as we've grown and expanded, the Prince Rupert Port Authority has continued to invest through our community investment fund. There's been over 20 million dedicated community investment fund to date. We take a percentage of our net income every year and allocate it to the fund. There's been 120 projects supported to date and 85 community organizations that have benefited from these investments, whether it be in community arts groups, recreational facilities, clubs, etc. We're really proud of that program. So. Anyways, that's a quick update on where we're at. Lots of good things happening. I think that the next couple of years will be pretty exciting for Prince Rupert.
Wonderful. Councillor Nish.
Thank you for the presentation. It's obviously a very optimistic because of what's going on, and the only thing I was just going to ask as far as the negative portion would be with the recent forestry stuff going on and Drax announcing a closure of one of their facilities. Do you think that there may be an impact to the pellet plant?
Yeah, I think that if you look at the codependence that Drax has with a lot of the mills in the interior, we're certainly watching it. Most of what we're seeing, the influences on Drax are not demand related, they're supply related, and their access to fiber. And remember, the pellet industry started as beehive burners were phased out to deal with the residual wood from mills and everything else. As we see that production go down, it does beg the question, is it going to impact fiber supply? So, yeah.
Councillor Randhawa.
Thank you for your presentation. Great. Future looks great. So, like next couple of years, lots of projects will be completed. So, how many direct jobs will we can see in Prince Rupert?
We expect over the next, call it 3 years, there's probably in excess of 300 direct jobs. When you start looking at, and that's with I'm thinking terminals and the facilities, and then you've got the trucking ramp up as the volumes start to increase through the can export facility. So that would probably add a significant number of trucking jobs after that. When you see, I think, all these capacities grown into, and the effect on the Fairview container business, never mind the actual jobs at all those facilities, we expect there's another 1,000 jobs coming. Yeah.
Anybody else? Councillor Adie.
I've been out there 2 or 3 times now, and I remember having a conversation right around the time that the controversial world of tariffs raised its head. And I asked, it was Kurt Slocum that was guiding us around. I was with Mayor Pond at the time. I asked whether the turbulence caused by that and the impact of those tariffs and the uncertainty around policy making in terms of how all that was rolled out, whether that was a problem. And his response was that if anything, it was the opposite, that it was going to be an advantage to us. I'm wondering if you could comment on that, because what I'm seeing there is, this massive growth and the diversification that it consists of, it seems to me, creates resilience and strength. the uncertainty of the international financial world creates vulnerability. And I'm just wondering if you have some thoughts on.
Yeah, there's lots of layers to that. I think you know, how we were feeling 6 months ago was different than 3 months ago than probably now. I think when you look at the U.S. tariffs, there's two things that it ran the risk of impacting uh, sort of the global economy and trade being a bit of an indicator in the health of that. It also represented a threat in concept, I guess, with the USTR of Prince Rupert's ability to serve U.S. imports of containers. But aside from that, it actually represents a tremendous tailwind for Prince Rupert. Uh, the relevance of Prince Rupert from a renewed economic ambition that we have and a mandate that we've seen coming out of Ottawa to double, Canadian exports to other markets over the next 5 to 10 years puts a star on Prince Rupert. So everything we're building right now are the tools to see Canada to diversify its export markets. CanExport is going to have 400,000 TUs of export capacity that can those containers can be filled with strategic metals and minerals. They can be filled with forest products that have been displaced from the U.S. market, agricultural products. The REEF project represents a significant scaling up of our energy infrastructure at a time when we need it. And Prince Rupert Grain has capacity, Trigon has capacity, Fairview Container Terminal has capacity. So we are ideally positioned to capitalize on Canada's ambition to diversify the markets with which it trades. And that is far greater opportunity than the threat that the access to the U.S. market for imports represents.
Councillor Eadie.
And if I can just follow up on that, I've also had conversations about the balance between imports and exports. The number of containers coming from Prince Rupert through Terrace and on beyond that are full is far outweighs the number of containers that arrive back here. And obviously the end goal of those initiatives is to balance those numbers. But my question is that related to what happens beyond the Zanardi Bridge. You in doubling the bridge, you're reducing a pinch point. But there has to be, and I'm sure there is, a very active conversation with CN Rail about expanding the rest of the way so that there aren't pinch points down the line. I guess my question is, how would you characterize that conversation that's happening between CN and the port to make that transport and the big increase in traffic work?
Yeah, for coming on a couple decades now, we've had a planning in common, relationship with CN. So every terminal, every project, every opportunity for growth, we distill down to train pairs, so that we have an understanding of what the capacity is, capacity utilization is in the main line. And CN has made incredible investments in sidings and across the entire network. And you've probably seen it driving between here and Terrace, as well as Wilson siding right in Port Ed on the approaches to Zanardi. So when you look at the leg between Prince Rupert and just west of Edmonton, we still have tremendous capacity to grow. We're probably utilized, somewhere just over 50%. When you go further inland, where the CN's network converges with both Vancouver and Prince Rupert, that's where there's probably some capacity that continues to be monitored, and CN continues to expand and double track that whole area as well when you start getting across the prairies. The bigger issue for us on the container business with CN is the ability to accommodate the demand for Canadian imports and the limitations of their capacity in Ontario. And they've been working for the better part of a decade to build an inland facility called Milton, and it was held up for a decade in the environmental assessment, and they're now moving forward with it. That's more of the constraint than it is mainline capacity. Yeah.
Councillor Forster.
Thank you for this very optimistic presentation. It's always nice to see great things that are on the horizon. I think quite a few of my questions are rather technical about safety and environmental impacts.
Okay.
And I don't know that this is the right venue to do that. If myself or other members of the community had those types of questions, because I don't want to ask questions and have somebody hear it on the other end of the camera
Yeah.
and think that there's actually a problem when it's more about my understanding.
Yeah,
So,
we
like, what's the best way for that to be raised? Because
we've got a couple things. Anytime someone's got a question, I've got colleagues with me, Catherine Bamford and Monica Cote. Monica is our director of community relations and communications. We have a community information forum that topics are brought forward. Also happy to have a discussion with anyone that has a question around environmental risk, environmental stewardship, safety, or otherwise. And because it's important that if we aren't getting information out to give people a sense of comfort and of how we're growing, we'd love to have the conversation and make sure we've got the information for them.
perfect. I think that's just the better way, because otherwise
Sure.
I think we can go down a whole path that will get everybody quite excited when it doesn't need to be.
Well,
So, okay, I'll connect with maybe Monica offline. Thank you.
sure.
Great. Anything else? Councillor Cunningham.
Well, thanks very much for the optimistic presentation, Sean. I hope it comes to bear. I just hope that the city benefits as much as you say it's going to, because we've seen a lot of growth in the port and not a lot of benefits coming to the city. You do help a lot of small community groups, but I always compare us to Rio Tinto and what Rio Tinto does, because it's not a port, paying $18 million in taxes and giving a lot of benefits to the community, and that even though it's an international company. But I see a lot of money going to Ottawa from the port that we would like to be getting.
Yeah. Well, it has grown, right? If you look at the footprint from 4 to 12, and now hopefully to 12 to in excess of 20 million a year. I don't know it's attributed because we're a port. It's just the nature of how taxation works, and you've got a manufacturing facility.
Well,
Yeah.
I don't want to
Yeah.
get into the
Yeah.
built and the caps, because you and I've been in that enough times.
Yeah.
I'm just very optimistic
Yeah.
that what you're showing up there will come to roost, because the city needs it.
Yeah.
And
Agree.
the workforce that you're projecting, there's going to be a lot of problems with housing and things like that. And it'd be nice sometimes if not just the federal government, and I know you guys are helping us lobby, which is great. It's been a turnaround for the port and the city. It's a lot of people don't realize that some of the stuff that they're still whining about is in the past, and the present and the future are improving. But I just very optimistic that what your graph up there says comes to roost, because it would really help the city if it does. What I liked is the part of the residential tax base getting smaller.
Well, I don't think it's going to get smaller, but you're going to have a lot more to work with to restore new infrastructure as a contribution.
Yeah, as a
Absolutely.
contribution, yeah, which is going to be positive. So, and I understand you're retiring, so I hope you enjoy your retirement.
Yeah, it's been a pleasure to work in Prince Rupert for 28 and a half years, and the partnership that we've had with the city of Prince Rupert. And I think the next couple of years are going to be pretty exciting here.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm going to invite you to come join me on this side. See if I can do this.
He's going to give you a pipe.
No, I don't think we can. Come on over here. It's very timely that you're here. Unfortunately, it's the last presentation you're going to do in front of Prince Rupert City Council. But I wanted to acknowledge you and do that here in front of the community, watching on television, do it in front of the City Council. I say it often, and you and I have repeated it back and forth, particularly today, far more than in the past. Those early graphs that you show when we had pulp mill and fishing industry and everything else. Today, without the Port of Prince Rupert, there really is no City of Prince Rupert. And conversely, without the City of Prince Rupert, there's no Port of Prince Rupert. We are inextricably linked together. That growth curve, I have had the pleasure of having a front row seat for a whole lot of it, and I know the role that you specifically played, not just the port and all the employees, but you drove a ton of that growth. As I was leaving office the last time in 2008, the container terminal had opened, and you and I were discussing how we were going to get the government funding for the road corridor around Ridley Island.
Yeah.
And then you continued marching on that and got her done. And like there's just so much of what happened there that's got your fingerprint all over it. And it comes at a tremendous personal cost in that you have spent years of your life now on airplanes, sleeping in beds away from your kids, away from your family, away from major life events, and you know, I go back to times when you and I are in different places around the globe, having to point to maps to show people in the transportation industry where Prince Rupert even was. Right? You don't have to do that today. People know Prince Rupert in the travel industry or in the transportation industry, and so much of that is because what you've done. And so I want to just make sure that you've got a remembrance of us. Just you know, that you can hang it somewhere and remember that there's a very thankful group of people back in Prince Rupert that what you have done and what you've contributed and what the growth that will come from that is long lasting. You can I know we haven't seen the last of you broadly. There'll be something happening, Sean Stevenson, but as you ride off into the sunset and you get to enjoy a little bit more downtime, I want you to always reflect fondly with great pride of what you've done for the people of Prince Rupert.
It's been a privilege to be part of it all, and it's all been built on partnerships.
Yeah.
So hopefully it'll continue. So.
Yeah. Absolutely.
All right. Thank you very much.
For sure.
That'll be a great reminder of all the time together. Thank you.
And I always say at this point, you're more than welcome to stay as long as you want, but you don't have to stay a moment longer than you want. We take no offense if you get up and leave at any point now. All right, it is now an opportunity for members of the public that would like to come forward and address council on any item that's on the agenda this evening. And nobody's moving towards a microphone, so I will go on. We have a consent agenda there. There's quite a number of items on the consent agenda. There are council minutes, the minutes of the special meeting to close on December 1st, the minutes of the public hearing meeting on December the 1st, the minutes of the committee of the whole meeting on December 1st, and the minutes of the regular meeting of December 1st. There's reports, a report from the fire chief for November, a report from planning for October and November, a report from planning with regards to the annual report for development services. And I encourage people to have a read of that report. There's a lot of really good information, particularly around housing. There's a memo from the Director of Recreation and Community Services with regards to summer Saturday night drop-in pilot summary. There's a report from the Chief Financial Officer for September, which basically says everything's on track. There is a 2026 council calendar update. Council, I encourage you to have a good look at that because caught a couple dates that just didn't make sense, and so we've brought them back into alignment with the bylaw. There's a report for approval, a report from the Economic Development Officer with regards to an application to Rural and Remote Employment Initiative Fund Labor Market Research Plans, and correspondence for receipt from the North Coast Regional District, their November board highlights. Can I have and the recommendation is that all the items on the consent agenda be approved or received as requested. Can I have a motion to that effect? Councilors Forster and Randawa. Any items you want to draw to attention or pull up? Councilor Forster.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I wanted to quickly get a little bit of additional information on the summer Saturday nights memo.
Yep.
So my question, very exciting that this was used. Sadly, it looks like only by one additional person on average for that time. If we were to look at funding this completely for the year on Saturday nights with a cost of $3,100, what would we be looking at as a taxation cost for us to do that? $3,100 is not a lot of money, but what does that translate to?
In terms of
A percentage.
a percentage for taxation, CEO Pucci, have you got?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I don't have that. We can get the information for
I
council.
I see Director Bauman typing away quickly there on that.
And if she wants to comment, then I can pass it over to her.
Director Bauman.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, for the question. Based on the 2025 assessed values, the tax increase would be 0.012%.
So less than $1 per home, basically, if we were to
Yeah,
look at it.
yeah. At $3,100, we have about 5,000 households in roughly 5,000 households in Prince Rupert. So, is that fair? For rough math.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Any other questions or comments? Councillor Cunningham.
Just two. One on the. I'll go with the Second Avenue Bridge first. You've got on here 2 lines. Where is it? In the major projects update.
That's coming up,
Oh,
isn't it? Or is it? Did I read over it?
Am I jumping ahead?
You know, the major. It's coming up. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. The other one is DP 2508, George Hills Way. Proposed development of a grocery store in the downtown core. When people read that, they're going to ask what it is.
Well, go ahead, CEO Pucci.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So, I mean, that's as much information as we're allowed to give, as that's what's in the application.
Okay.
Thank you.
Councillor Adey.
A couple of questions, or a couple of comments, really, regarding the Planning and Development Services annual report. First of all, I want to say that I think it's a really useful report. I think it's well put together. It's clear, and it allows us to understand where we are currently in comparison to the goals that have been set. We're not always meeting those goals. I think we've got some gaps in terms of where we want to be at the end of 2026 in terms of housing. And I suppose I wonder where we're at in terms of planning to make up for the 493 units that we're short, and just over a year to get there. And I appreciate that one doesn't always meet the goals that one sets. What I do want to note about the report, though, is that there are some positive trends in it. I note a modest increase in terms of the take up on the revitalization tax exemption. I note that the comparatives on the processing times for development permits between Prince Rupert and a number of other communities, we're doing that far faster. And I'm a big fan of doing these things fast, as long as it's not too fast or too hasty. And perhaps more significantly, the new housing and city core revitalization, we're looking at an $88,000 opportunity cost in terms of money we're not taking in, but that's resulted in 14 million of investment money coming into the community. So I see that as a pretty significant positive trade-off. I do have a question about the 14 million number, and that is, does this 14 million represent committed shovels in the ground or about to be shovels in the ground? Or is a portion of that still in the aspirational, it might happen, it might not? I'm just wondering how that breaks down.
CAO Pucci.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm going to defer to Mufamwe Pope, our planner.
Director Pope.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The invested values within the report are representative of the costs that are deemed for the capital investment on building permits. So all of those costs are within building permits that have began work, not in the planning and development phase of it.
Councillor Adie.
That would be the better of the answers possible. Thanks. My second comment was, in fact, also about the summer Saturday nights program. While I share the observation that the comparison between 10 people making use of it on a Saturday night and 9 people making use of it on weeknights seems like it's a bit of a wash. I do think that if we were to consider extending it for a year, we might learn more information. I think particularly in terms of having it extend through the winter months when the weather is crappy outside. Not all that crappy out there tonight, but and also allow for some conclusions to be drawn about whether the 10 people that are using it on a Saturday night are the same folks that are using it during the week, or is it actually bringing in different faces for whatever reason that might be. So I do think there's an argument to be made for having a look to see if we could extend it or repeat it on a longer term basis.
Great. CAO Pucci, you've made note of that. Thank you. I want to highlight particularly what has already been drawn attention to just generally, but I want to get more specific. In the speeding up, we were already pretty quick, quite frankly, but because of the delegation that was recommended to council approved, I want people to understand exactly what that number is. That in other comparative centers, it varies from 8-10 weeks to up to 6 months to do a development permit, up to 6 months. In Prince Rupert, real-time measure of what we have done, we average 17 days. 17 days compared to months. For development variance permits, which have a more complete process attached to them by the very nature, often you have to consult with neighbors and that sort of thing. Again, whereas other jurisdictions are up to months, some of them get it down to 10 weeks. We're at 36 days. Again, pretty impressive. Councillor Cunningham.
There was a video made, and that was one of the proponents that built an apartment here from Vancouver that actually praised the building and planning department on how fast and easy it was to get permits and that through in our town and get projects out of the ground. And it was quite impressive. These are big builders from Vancouver.
Councillor Niche.
One of the ones that I'd like to highlight actually is the revitalization tax exemption, and when we first started that one, it's been quite a few years, and there wasn't a lot of action on it in the beginning, but as we move along here, and I know probably one of the slowest rebounds we've had in our community since economic collapse has been our downtown. And unfortunately that's the most visible portion. But now slowly we're starting to see buildings that sat for many years, and I'll use the Daily News building as an example, where it sat for years and years and years with in disrepair, and now it's a replacement of a burnt down beer store, or but it's all a portion of a rebuild, or there is the what other building that actually sat there burnt up for quite a few years. That's it's now a dispensary in the downstairs and housing upstairs. And you know that building sat for I don't know how many years it was with pigeons flying in and out the windows and you know it's nice to see that people are starting to take advantage of this. And you know you look through the years, even though we had that program for years, there was really no one taking advantage of it until the last 2 years, where you know we're starting to see these downtown buildings fixed up and you know obviously we would love to see things faster, but you know we slowly kick the can down the road and we make it happen, and it's coming. So you know I'd like to keep supporting these exemptions and you know even the housing one. You know I think that's a big one too. Trying to get people to encourage to build housing because it's not an easy thing to do in this town, and any dollar helps. So I think they've been very successful, as not as maybe not as fast as we had hoped or want, but you know there's many challenges to making things happen, and but I think it's finally starting to come. So I'm happy about that.
Great. Anyone else? All in favor? Any opposed? It is carried. All right, we have reports. Report from the Chief Administrative Officer with regards to the Fire Control Bylaw number 3663. Recommendation that Council consider the Fire Control Bylaw number 3663. Motion, please. Councilors Cunningham and Niche. Any discussion? Councilor Ady.
I just recall that as we were going from a rather stormy, controversial moment to a place where we were describing the various proponents as getting much closer, and now we're presented with one that appears to satisfy all involved. I remember that the issue at the midpoint there was around the term exempt lands, and that it was as it was defined in the bylaw. And if I read it correctly, what's happened is it's been taken out. This is a question, I guess. It's been taken out, and there is a statement there about the capacity to develop service agreements with properties outside of city boundaries. I'm wondering if that is that paragraph is the resolution.
CEO Pucci.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, so the resolution around it is that we don't really need to name exempt lands. There's lands that this bylaw is applicable for and lands that that this bylaw is not applicable for. So when you get to, I think it's part 11, section 77, it talks about that this bylaw is applicable for the lands that it is for, and then if it's the lands that it's not for, we can have service agreements. So we worked with industry, the PRPA, and legal to craft language that satisfied all of us and was very good with, there's no risk associated with that language. So we're in a good place.
Any other comments or questions? All in favor? Any opposed? It is carried. We've got a report from the Director of Operations with regards to the Operations Major Project Update. And recommendation that Council receives the report for information processes. Can I have a motion to that effect, please? Councilors Forster and Rondawa. CAO Pucci, did you want to speak to this report at all?
Thank you, Mayor. This is from our Director of Operations. I will try to answer any questions associated with it. If not, I can take them away and get them answered. Thank you.
Okay. Councilor Cunningham.
Back to the Second Avenue Bridge. It's, you know, people in Section 2 are really wondering about when the second lane is going to be opened again. And I know that the bridge is a very old bridge and needs a lot of structural changes in that. So I'm assuming the design is for that, not the cantilevered walkway. Is that how you would explain it?
CAO Pucci.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So, so the design is for both. The design is going to be for the cantilevered walkway and for the whatever rehabilitation needs to be done for the bridge. We will prioritize the cantilevered walkway. When they were doing inspection associated with the design work, they found that there was some rotten members that were underneath the walkway, which required its immediate closure. to be honest, it's likely going to be a couple months before before we can resume two-way traffic on that bridge. We have to get through the design process, get the work signed off, and then actually complete the work associated with the cantilevered walkway, and then we can move on to the bridge deck.
I want to emphasize that because so people are crystal clear on that. The closure didn't happen because the laneways are unsafe. The bridge is safe for traffic. What happened was, on a last minute emergency basis, we realized that the pedestrian walkway was not safe, and we had to close it. And so now you've got to say, okay, well, how are pedestrians going to move back and forth between town and section 2? Well, the only way is to take away one of the travel lanes and allow pedestrians to use the travel lane. And because that happened as a direct result of an inspection that said, you got to do this now, there's no planning for it. There's no timbers ordered. There's no design work done. The thing is closed. And so that's why for the next few months, likely, the people of section 2 will be hitting what I counted down many times to be pretty much 80 seconds of of waiting if you get there just at the wrong time, right? And but it's working, right? Yeah. Any other comments? Councillor Niche.
I mean, obviously, at this point in time, lots of community discussions, especially on social media, is about, you know, the trials and tribulations of trying to maneuver around our community, including this bridge. And you know, I mean, it's going to be a long road of working on this stuff, and people are just have to understand that, you know, it impacts us at this table too, and sometimes, you know, comments made are that you know, that for some reason we are not impacted by these things, and we are, and in fact I think there's 4 people sitting on the desks around me that are impacted by that Second Avenue Bridge. So, you know, it every road that gets dug up, you know, makes us have to take detours. You know, every pipe that gets dug up and you know, we have to have a boil water advisory. It means we have to have a boil water advisory too, because we all are taxpayers and living in this community as well. And it you know, it's going to be a long journey. And if you look at this report, I mean, I think we're at somewhere of $140 million in capital projects for 2026. So, you know, there's going to be lots of roads to detour, and it's going to be exciting years to see this stuff come to fruition, but it's also going to be turn our commutes from 5 to 7 minutes now.
Councillor Forster.
Thank you. In my day-to-day job, safety is a big focus. So I just wanted to talk really quickly about the Public Works Occupational Health and Safety Program upgrades. We've talked a few times about the current Public Works building not being super safe, and that's why there was a decision to move to the new building that's being completed. How much of this new program upgrades is going to be transferable to the new building?
CAO Pucci.
Can you just repeat for program upgrades?
So it's called Public Works Occupational Health and Safety Program Upgrades. It's listed as 95% complete and says consultants completed updates of the safety management system and safe work policies. Next, we will roll out to the Joint Occupational Health and Safety Committee, and work will continue in 2026 with standard operating procedures and updated onboarding process.
CAO Pucci.
Thank you for that, Councillor. All of it is transferable. So this is SOP, so standard operating procedures, goes on practices typically out in the field and how we address things. So this isn't necessarily building things. This is out in the field and field works and how we operate. Yeah.
the thought I had in reading that was, and I leave it with you, CAO Pucci, but whether there couldn't be some performance measures developed around this, lost time injuries, those sorts of things, and some sort of regular reporting on that. Anything else, Council? I think this is an incredibly important document. I really encourage people at home to take the time. Everything's available on the website if you go through the agenda. It's a 3-page document that lists out different major projects and where we're at in them and how they're proceeding. I want to echo Councillor Nish's comments. We're in the middle of, particularly with the water system in particular, we've got the water pipe in the middle of the table. We are in the middle, roughly, of about a 10-year renewal program that is renewing the entire water system, century-old water system for the city of Prince Rupert. And there's just no way to do that and not disturb people, either in the creating some turbidity in the water or creating some interruption in your daily drive. I want to give constantly remind people of the sense of the journey. This began with the previous council sitting down and raising the money and then going about to do the work to rebuild the water dam, which secures the water supply, which is an incredible water supply. We should be grateful for the work that was done a century plus ago to secure the water supply, and by the previous council to ensure that the dam is intact, so that and that project took years to raise the money, years to plan, years to execute, and was only completed at the beginning of our term in 23, right? So that's the kind of lead time on this. And we all came into office, I think, certainly I did, believing that we were going to be the water filtration council, that there was some money set aside for that, and we were going to bring the filtration plant. And that very Christmas, we all remember the story, 14 major water breaks in a very short period of time, pop, 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 state of emergency declared, some threat to potentially losing all water in the community. People complain about the fact they have to boil water today. We were close to not being able to flush a toilet or wash your clothes or shower, in which would have resulted in the complete evacuation of the city for months. So pipes became the project. We raised $200 million between our own borrowing and whatever, and we're in the throes of doing that work. And some of the early work was out of sight. Shawantlands Road didn't really upset a lot of people. Now we're moving on to 11th Avenue, and we're moving into people's neighborhoods, and you can either get upset by that, or you can celebrate the fact that we're going to get it done. We're going to be the generation that actually gets this thing rebuilt for the next generation. And council is pushing hard to raise the money for water treatment, which will be the first time in Prince Rupert. We chlorinate. I want to be clear about that. We don't send untreated water, but we have never in the history of Prince Rupert filtered that water. This will be 3-barrier protection. I mean, in modern state of the art, that's the goal. But that isn't going to happen quickly. And so if you don't like me now, you probably aren't going to like me tomorrow or the day after that, because my goal is to tear up as many streets as I can and get as many pipes replaced until we can get the water filtered and into those pipes. And then someday we will be in a happy place and we'll be there for years. Councillor Adie.
That was inspiring. I read the report, and I appreciate that the report is a good way to sort of bring some threads together. And it's always comforting when you see that a particular item is now 90% completed. And that means something, but I'm also a former teacher, and I can tell you that giving a student a score of 70% can mean a lot of different things. So in my view, maybe the missing piece here, and it wouldn't necessarily be easy to make it oversimplified, is where we are on a percentage base in terms of the spending of the money that we have. So in a perfect world, if we were 50% through a project that was $100 million, we would have spent $50 million. Now, I know that it doesn't really work that way because certain things are more expensive than others. And if the greatest expense is in the last half, you might look good. But if the greatest expense is in the first half, you might look you've just about blown the money.
Yeah.
So I know it's not a simple thing. So I guess what I would hope for in future reports is just a kind of a tentative stab at putting that frame on it as well in terms of where we are, because we are stewards of the biggest contribution of senior levels of government to a municipality, and bigger than many other places. I don't know if it's the biggest one or not, but and that bears with it some responsibility for oversight. And I think understanding where we are with the money as well as the percentage completion would be very useful.
Excellent. Good. It's noted. All right. If there's nothing else, all in favor? Any opposed? It is carried. We have a report from the Chief Financial Officer with regards to the 5-year financial plan amendment bylaw number 3671.
Mr. Mayor, it's not an amendment bylaw. That is the 2026. No amendment.
Oh, no. Okay. You're right. Thank you very much. Okay. You're right. I need to scratch that. Thank you. 5-year financial plan bylaw number 3671. Recommendation is the council proceed with consideration of the City of Prince Rupert 2026 5-year financial plan amendment bylaw number 3671, and that council directs staff to proceed with the 20.
It's not an amendment. You said amendment again.
But did I say amendment again? Okay, I'm sorry. No amendment. This is not an amendment. And that council directs staff to proceed with the 2026 spending as proposed. Motion. Councilors Niche and Cunningham. Any discussion? All in favor? Any opposed? It is carried. Okay, bylaws. City of Prince Rupert Fire Control Bylaw number 3663, that council give third reading of the new City of Prince Rupert Fire Control Bylaw number 3663, 2025. Motion, please. Councilors Randawa and 80. Any discussion? All in favor? Any opposed? It's carried. We have the City of Prince Rupert 5-year financial plan amendment bylaw number 3670. Recommendation is the council give fourth and final reading to the City of Prince Rupert 2025 5-year financial amendment bylaw number 3670, 2025. Councilors Niche and Cunningham, any discussion? All in favor? Any opposed? It's carried. Just for clarity, I'm laughing a little bit about the amendment, but I think it is important. This 5-year financial plan amendment bylaw is amending the 2025 5-year financial plan based on what has really happened now on the ground. It's updating it, right? We are going to now move to the future one, which is different. And so I think just for the sake of public. All right, next one up is the City of Prince Rupert 2026 5-year financial plan bylaw number 3671. Recommendation is that council give first, second, and third reading to the City of Prince Rupert 2026 5-year financial plan bylaw number 3671. Councillor Forster. Oh, okay, moved, seconded. Thank you, Councillor Eady. I thought you were going to correct me on something. Now I'm getting gunshot. So moved and seconded. Any discussion? This now in Councillor Randall.
So, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Our first forecast was average house will be $81 increase next year, and so with the amendment, so do we have any number how much we increase for average house? So
the average house. I'll turn to Director Bauman here in a second, but just for clarity for the public, until last council meeting, we were working with a certain number. Council agreed to put in another $45,000 in spending, which I think translated to a 0.18% increase. And so the question is, that's staff do a really good job of saying, okay, but for the average house, that would translate to X amount. So what's the new
one?
what's the new amount? Are you able to give that to us, Director Bauman?
Mr. Mayor, if you could just give me a few minutes,
Absolutely.
if you don't mind.
Take your time. Take your time. We'll get an answer to that. Are there any other questions?
I have another question.
Oh yeah.
So my second question be like with this one increase and all the like water fee and sewer fees and garbage fee for next year. Like
Yep.
How much we altogether be increase for next year for average
Okay.
house?
Where was that report? That report was last week. I don't have that in front of me right now. So yeah, so there was a fairly substantial increase, and I just wish I could remember. It was in the report last week. Your answer to questions from council is where it was in last week's, as I recall. Yes, it was. It was last week's agenda. The answers to council, it contained an item about those. And Director Bauman, anytime you get that average number, just let me know. We can pause here, folks. There's no rush to.
We have the like percent, right? Like water 4.5%, sewerage 16%, solid waste 66%. But in numbers, like how much? Like in numbers.
Yeah. Councillor Nugent.
I mean, the one thing you can't translate that to a percentage of the utilities because every house pays the same utilities.
Right.
So you can't really translate that to how much that impacts. That impacts the lower houses.
There's a dollar number that is everybody the same. Okay, CEO Pucci.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So in the budget document, it
Okay.
talks about the utility fees. So the 2026 utility fee for water, inclusive of the 2% asset management fee, is $614.67. Sewer and sanitary with the asset management levy is $712.25, and garbage with the levy asset management levy is $605.59. So
But that doesn't speak to the increase. So that's the new number.
that's the new number, correct? You were wanting the increase from last
Yeah.
year. Sorry about that.
Oh no, it was more. It's the reason I'm typing on my phone, just in case anybody's wondering, is I'm going to look at last week's agenda.
I just looked, it wasn't in the answers. The answers.
If answer not there, we can get next meeting, no problem.
Oh, am I wrong? Okay.
We can definitely,
Sorry?
but it'd be.
If the answer is not here, we can get next time, no problem.
Yeah.
It's okay.
Yeah. We're first, second, third reading.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll come back with
It'll
those.
be in my.
We'll come back with those. Yeah. Good questions. The 80, if it was $81, and I don't remember that's what it was. Okay. We'll come back to it. I think that's the better course. Yeah. Okay, Director Bauman.
Okay, so it is actually $85 for the average assessed valued home. So it went up $4. And as to the other question, the difference is $158 overall for water, sewer, and solid waste. Is the increase minus the 10% for the early pay discount, it's $142. So if you add the 142 plus the 85 I just mentioned, for an averaged home, it would be $227 for the year. But of course, remembering that utilities is going to be the same rate for everybody.
Right. Okay, thank you for that. Appreciate it. Some quick thinking. Any other comments or questions? All in favor? Any opposed? Councillor Randhawa is opposed. It is carried. City of Prince Rupert Official Community Amendment Bylaw number 3667, 2025. Recommendation that council give fourth and final reading to the City of Prince Rupert Official Community Plan Amendment Bylaw number 3667, 2025. Motion please. 80 and Forster. Any discussion? All in favor? Any opposed? Carried. City of Prince Rupert Zoning Bylaw Amendment number 3668, 2025. The recommendation is the council give fourth and final reading to the City of Prince Rupert Zoning Bylaw Amendment number 3668, 2025. Motion please, Councillors Nish and Forster. Any discussion? All in favor? Any opposed? It is carried. Council Roundtable, it's your time. Councillor Forster.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Two things. First one, I've had a lot of people in the community ask me what the timeline is for them to be able to do the memorial plaques or memorial benches.
Okay.
They say they've asked staff and they are still sort of in a holding pattern, so we're wondering if we can get an update on that.
CAO Pucci.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I talked to staff today, and with the significant amount of construction that's going to be going on in Mariners Park and on the waterfront, including the Millennium Walkway there, we will be putting together new policy in 2026 for distribution in 2027 as part of a new program. So in mid to late 2026, we'll be coming forward to the community with what that looks like. Thank you.
Perfect.
Perfect, thanks. And my only other thing is just my annual recognition that this past week was National Day of Remembrance and Action on Violence Against Women. And just a reminder to anybody in the community that identifies as a woman or a gender diverse person, we have a lot of resources here in our community and encourage people that need help to reach out. Thank you.
Yeah. I attended the memorial on Friday organized at the college, and you know, it's always moving, it's always powerful. And there, but now I want to recognize the work that's done by North Coast Transition Society in our community. It would be a much more difficult assignment to be a community leader if they weren't there doing the work that they're doing and in the many areas that they're working. We're very, very fortunate to have that organization functioning. Anything else? Councillor Cunningham.
Just recognize all the volunteers for Winterfest. It turned out very well. And so it's another special events that I think a lot of people attended down the waterfront. And I know some people were looking for the crab trap tree and couldn't find it, but they were given the right directions by a few of us.
Yeah, I understand. I wasn't there for that piece, but I understand the fire in that harbor machining thing was good enough you could roast marshmallows from 20 or 30 feet away. So anything else? Councillor Randhawa.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, we are in winter and a lot of potholes pops up now. So if we have any plan to in the holiday time too, I'd like to fix those ones. Look after.
CAO Pucci, potholes.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So we'll be staffed over the holiday season, and as part of the roads maintenance crew, they'll be out doing pothole repair. That team is dedicated to roads, whether it's doing snow plowing if we have snow, or winter ice, or fixing roads with potholes. So they'll be out in full force.
The community last Saturday was invited to the official opening of the Belmont liquor store. And a number of us attended. And I just want to congratulate them. They've taken a building that sat vacant on a pretty important street in Prince Rupert and turned it into something really good looking. And we're excited by that. So appreciate it. Anything else? Motion to adjourn. Counselor Rondawa, Counselor Adi, all in favor? Any opposed? It's carried. The meeting is adjourned.